small batch manufacturer. We have a sustainable sleepwear entrepreneur, a coffee roaster and brewery owner, 2 family farmers and agriculture leaders, a statewide business advocate, a wholesale and retail distribution executive, and an independent boutique owner. Tariff policies aren't abstract. They're affecting real people, real businesses, and real paychecks. This uncertainty is costing businesses and consumers by the minute. Now, I just want to remind people, this call will be on the record. We'll have time for press questions at the end. Reporters, feel free to drop your name and outlet in the chat, and we'll call on you during the Q&A. So let's get started. Again, my name is Aaron Lehman. I'm a 5th-generation farmer from central Iowa, where we grow corn, soybeans, oats, and hay with our family. You know, we farm because we take great pride in growing food in a way that improves our farm, our community, and our society. Our farm and thousands of farms throughout Iowa and across the country are being impacted by chaotic tariffs and trade policies. So what does this mean to the average farmer? It means that because of these increased costs and lower market prices for what we grow, it means we put off buying machinery and making other farm improvements. We're less likely to support our local suppliers and manufacturers. Sometimes we even put off bringing the next generation onto the farm, which is extremely dangerous because the average age of the farmer is in Iowa is over 57 years old. But even more than that, it stifles innovation. And farmers are worrying just how to stabilize their economic situation rather than concentrating on ways to innovate. Now, it is true that we've had some trade deals that in the past haven't always been the best for farmers or workers, but this chaotic trade policy has not gotten any closer to fairer trade. We're no closer to stopping product dumping, manipulative monetary policies, unfair labeling restrictions. You know, for folks here, we can't even put a label on our meat that says product of the USA without knowing that the cattle might have been bred, born, raised, and slaughtered outside of our country. This trade approach hasn't gotten to any closer to fixing those problems and has not gotten us any closer to fair trade. So with that, I'd like to ask our next guest to join the call. And Nick Colombo, would you join the call? Nick is a co-founder of Switchgrass Spirits in St. Louis, Missouri. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you. So for my portion of the call, I'd like to explain how tariffs are affecting my business, but also the industry, the alcohol and whiskey industry in general. 6 months ago, we were talking with distributors in France and South Korea to sell our American product made out of American grain, American barrels to South Korea and bring money into our community. We're no longer doing that. Because of retaliatory tariffs, it is too risky for us to make that investment. And we are no longer trying to sell our goods outside of this country. That's a huge miss, not only for us, but also for the people we buy grain from and the people we buy barrels from. It's manufacturing's place in an economy is central. We buy and sell so much stuff, and if we sell half of the stuff, we make half of the stuff. So that's kind of how our business is getting hurt. We're paying more for glass, which comes from Italy, but the main effect of this trade war is going to be on the industry we're in. Close to half of the whiskey, bourbon, and rye in this country gets sold outside of this country to Mexico, Canada, and the EU. That means if retaliatory tariffs on a very American spirit that other countries do make, like whiskey, that the big industry will sell half of the product they sold 2 years ago, because that would have an incredible effect on the people who I buy barrels from, to the farmers who sell them corn. Like an industry as big as the whiskey industry having their business cut in half would be catastrophic for, yeah, for like not only the industry itself, but all the inputs to that industry, regardless of whether they're from this country or from another one. Yeah, it's really scary to think about, and I feel bad for the people I buy barrels from because I'm buying less. I feel bad for the people I buy corn from because I'm buying less. But that's, I can't. You either got to sell it for half the price or cut your sales in half. So that's just kind of the decision that everybody who's managing a manufacturing is making right now, is how they're going to move forward. And it hasn't really hit yet because we haven't raised our prices, but it's just a matter of time, because it's the uncertainty of the tariff that's coming in and the lack of ability to grow because of that uncertainty. So anyway, just a little niche industry, but I thought it would shed some light on the rest of the economy. Up next, I'd like to introduce Angela Hawkins.
Hi, thank you
Sure.
for the opportunity, and thank you, Nick, for introducing me. My name is Angela Hawkins. I'm the owner and founder of Bamboo. So Bamboo is a sleep company. We produce eco-friendly bedding and pajamas made of bamboo. Our products are primarily manufactured in China and sourced from China because of the fact that China has they've dominated the process of manufacturing bamboo into a fabric, and it's just more economically feasible to source it from there. Other countries are trying to catch up, but we have not done that yet. I have been sourcing from China since 2017. And even when I started the business in 2017, I knew that one of the biggest risks that I had was government interference or government regulations around tariffs and importing. So I started at that point to look at other alternatives, and was not able to find anything that would allow me to sell at a reasonable price to my customers. When the tariffs came down in April, we were again in the market trying to find a source to be able to have made in the USA put on our brand. That would be a badge of honor, but it just wasn't possible. The prices that we were quoted were twice what we were paying out of China. And at the time, because of the 145% at the time, it almost made sense. And then the tariffs changed. So then we backed away from that opportunity and tried to go back towards manufacturing in China. It's just the decisions that are being made are unstable. Unstable.
Oh yeah,
They are.
I see.
I'm sorry, Ryan, would you mind putting it on? Thank you. The decisions that are being made are unstable, and there are too many fluctuations for us to be able to plan accurately. Today, we're 20 weeks away from holiday, which means that this is a time when business owners truly consider this our go time. So we're planning, we're executing on what our holiday plan is going to look like. But in many cases, most of us are stuck in a pivot. We're stuck trying to figure out what does that pivot look like, because we need to think of an alternative solution. There's decisions being made. Again, they're unstable, they're erratic, and they're making it so that we can't plan. Our holiday is our Super Bowl. Holiday is the time that many of us small businesses would make 50% of our revenue. And at this point, we don't know if that's even a possibility this year, because we don't know if we're going to be able to get the inventory in. Our production time is going to take us straight through to holiday planning time. And at that point, what would the tariffs look like? So I could have product in production now. I can have product in production over the next couple of months. And when it arrives at the port, I don't know what I'm going to have to pay for that. Therefore, I don't know what my return on investment is going to be. So it's just a very difficult time for small businesses to plan and to accurately execute. Hiring is reliant on what these tariffs do. Production is reliant, marketing, all the things that require us to be a sound business are up in the air, because we don't know what tariff decisions are going to be on the docket next month. So now I'm going to introduce Rachel Lux and let her take the floor. Thank you. Hi, Rachel.
Thank you, Angela. I really appreciate you. And before I owned my clothing boutiques, I actually came from the linens industry. So I remember when we shipped a lot of that equipment overseas, and it's not coming back anytime soon. So I just wanted to add that I totally understand your pain, as I've previously been in that industry as well. So my name is Rachel Lutz. I'm a third generation retailer, fourth generation small business owner in Detroit, Michigan. I actually started my business from the ground up myself. I started it by maxing out a $1,500 credit card. And now we've grown to over 1.5 million in revenue a year. I've created between 12 to 14 jobs. We do increase hiring for the holidays, but unfortunately my plans are frozen right now for any additional hires. We sell mostly women's apparel and accessories, a huge segment of the American retail market. And we carry a mix of both domestic made clothing and also overseas made clothing. 97% of American consumers or clothing on the US market is actually made overseas. I'm really proud to carry both US made, Canadian made clothing, as well as imported, but even those producers have really been rattled by these tariffs, and it's affecting them, which then affects me. My American clothing manufacturers that I carry, such as Karen Kane, Clara Sun Wu, a lot of them use imported fabric because, as Angela pointed out, there are barely any textile mills left in the US, and it's not like you can just wave a magic wand and restart them and have the labor to actually manufacture, the skilled labor to manufacture those things. So they're facing price increases, even though it's a US label. My Canadian vendors, I'm very proud to carry Canadian product because I feel like in terms of our shared values, Canada is the closest that we can get to our labor standards and environmental standards that we believe in the United States. And it really pains me to know that one vendor, for example, that I do hundreds of thousands of dollars in business with at retail a year, they're absorbing a 25% tariff since the spring. That is not sustainable for them, which is then not sustainable for me. My imported vendors, so I do carry product from overseas to give wide price ranges to my customers because I'm in a very mixed, I serve a very mixed income neighborhood in Detroit. Even my overseas vendors, they're having to absorb half the tariff. I'm absorbing the other half. I don't want to increase my prices to my customers because as a small retailer, this is probably the most challenging time I've ever had as a retailer in the United States. As a small business, we are competing against big players that ahead of the tariffs going into effect, they were able to ship massive amounts of inventory, warehouse them to buffer their impact from these tariffs. Small businesses like mine don't have that capability. We don't have those large pockets of capital to draw upon to do that. So, we are especially vulnerable compared to big businesses when it comes to these consumer goods that we're paying higher tariffs on. I'm unable to plan or forecast my business the way that I had. To get the best things for my customers, I go to trade shows, I see and feel the product in person, and I'm dealing with vendors that I ordered from back in January, February, when I ordered my Christmas inventory. I ordered those things at certain prices. And then when these tariff announcements came about, my inbox turned into a flood of notices that I had to stay on top of. Out of the 100 plus vendors that I carry, I had to wade through my inbox and see what each individual vendor was going to do with with the tariff situation. So it created a whole lot more work that I've had to do to stay on top of my orders. And now as I'm going to trade shows, I'm trying to buy inventory for next January, next February, and I can't even figure out what the pricing will be. And my vendors don't know either. A lot of them are wondering, like, how many samples do we cut? Do we cut the normal 100 samples? Do we cut 50? Do we give fewer selections to US consumers? I've had a key vendor that does most of my winter accessories like hats and gloves. They shut down their US arm completely. They're UK based. Their goods are made in China. They had invested in a warehouse in the United States that had been open for decades. And they recently decided, after all this uncertainty and whim, that they're pulling out of the US market completely. And now I have to replace that vendor. And I can't find the quality at the price that I was getting it at before. So that's also thrown a wrench into things. I'm absorbing, like I said, the tariffs so far. I've not passed it on to my customers, and I have to do that to stay competitive. I'm already dealing with e-retailers. I'm dealing with shaken consumer confidence. Even people who have household income, they have household savings, they have household wealth, their confidence is shaking and they're not shopping like they used to because they don't know where this is all leading. And it's been very, it's so frustrating to deal with an issue that I've survived. I started my business on the heels of the Great Recession. I've survived 3 years of street construction. I've survived 5 years of post-pandemic change in this business environment. And it feels like I'm dealing with a very arbitrary and manufactured crisis. This is not something that is not within our control to fix. It's not something that's not within the lawmakers' control to fix. And I want lawmakers to know this is affecting real people. I don't have a partner in my business. This is jobs at stake. This is consumer choice at stake. This is consumer pricing at stake. And this is just a further, a way to further disadvantage small businesses against big businesses. And we are the backbone of the economy. We are the largest employer, according to the SBA. So I just wanted to share my personal story, and I'm open for questions, as I'm sure everyone else is. I wanted to introduce David Bullock. He's with the Rochester Brewing and Roasting Company in Kansas City, Missouri, and I'm going to pass it on to him. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for sharing your story. I'm going to be saying some things that are probably pretty similar to what some of the other guests have said. But from a brewery and coffee perspective, we have run into a couple different issues, really. We're a small business. We own and operate 2 locations, a production facility with a retail location and event space attached to it, and a second retail space where we produce all of our food, our commissary kitchen. When the tariffs were announced, we were days away from inking a deal with a local developer to be what would have been considered an anchor tenant in a large development. We had in line, basically ready to go, larger production facility, and we were going to be opening a second retail location along with that. So we were going to upgrade our production facility and a retail location and add that anchor tenant spot in a large development in the Kansas City metro area. We were at this cusp of, every small business owner feels like there's always that next step that's the light at the end of the tunnel that's going to create the big jumping point for your business to grow. And it was right before the tariffs were announced that that was going on in my business. Everything came to a screeching halt, to be completely honest. People got nervous. Not only investors, but banks got nervous. We had some, it would have been the first time we were pulling out a loan, and we had to pause that. We had to shelf it. We saw a dramatic increase, especially because of the steel and aluminum tariffs that have gone into place and are in effect right now. Costs rising on our production capacity. So for me to get those new tanks and that new equipment, it was suddenly going to be that much more expensive, 50% more expensive, if not more. My aluminum cans that I'm packaging with on the regular are that much more expensive. So if you just look at the beer side, it's impacting us, but not to mention that the United States isn't known for being a good, big coffee producer. So all of the coffee is imported from a lot of these nations that are going to be facing these tariffs. And to echo what everyone else has said, I think it just comes down to that uncertainty. We all want to be able to plan and grow. We had the opportunity there where we were going to be adding roughly 25 to 30 new jobs. We were going to be adding manager level jobs, production level jobs. I was going to be able to replace myself as the head brewer. And with the pause and all of that, now we still have the goal to do that, but we're now in survival mode. Like Rachel spoke, consumer confidence is different. You can feel it, even if the tariffs haven't had the absolute direct effect yet. The consumer confidence is shaken because of a lack of stable pricing structure or lack of stable economic outlook due to honestly a self-own, a manufactured crisis, like Rachel said before. So from a small business perspective in a brewery, a coffee shop, I'm not buying warehouses full of cans. I'm not buying warehouses full of grain. I'm buying by the pallet. So a lot of your domestic inventory has been purchased and is not available. So everything I'm buying is coming from overseas when it comes to aluminum cans and those types of products. So not only am I don't have the economy of scale of some of the bigger businesses and bigger breweries out there, I'm going to be facing and beholden to my distributors, and they're going to be beholden to these tariffs as well. So in the end, I think every small business wants to be able to grow and wants to be able to provide more jobs for the community, more opportunities and products for the community as well. But with this inconsistency in application of economic policy, it's next to impossible for someone at my scale to be able to do that. So I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to the real plight that this is causing to small businesses. And up next, I'm going to introduce Steve Jenkins. He's the CEO of Jenkins Enterprises. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, David. At Jenkins Enterprises, we are producers of souvenirs, gifts, toys, and novelties. One of the biggest products that we do are importing and distributing licensed college products. So if you can put a Razorback, a Bulldog, a Tiger, something of that nature on a keychain, a magnet, a flag, a coffee cup, toys, hopefully that's coming from us. So we're licensed to produce that merchandise for about 150 schools and universities. Most of those products come from China. The component keychain, the component coffee cup, those things are coming from China. And then we apply the label, we apply the logo, we apply the mascot here at our facility in Arkansas. So we have about 70 workers in Arkansas and Tulsa in 2 locations that do this. We have a big jewelry production facility. We buy the components for that jewelry from overseas. And then we've got about 30 working moms and grandmoms that assemble this jewelry and apply the logos and sell to our customers. So the tariff has really affected our business because primarily 100% of the components that we get come from China. I've been going to China since 1996. Been many times. We have several great partners over there that provide this product for us. A good example of how the tariffs directly affect Americans happens with us because we may buy a product. For example, when the tariff went to 145%, an item that would have cost us $10 was now going to cost $24.50. So if you have a $10 item and you apply 145% tariff, the tariff cost is $14.50. So now my cost is no longer $10, it's $24.50, more than double. And so that tariff cost goes directly to our production cost, and it becomes exactly what it is, and that gets passed on to the consumer. There's, I know that some people say, well, we've had to eat some of that tariff, we've had to share some of that tariff, and at a 30% tariff where we're at right now, that's very difficult to do. So what happens is what everybody was afraid of, and didn't really happen too much because the tariffs kind of got paused and kind of got rolled back. We didn't see near the inflation that we thought we were going to see, but when we see 145%, when we see 50% on glassware, for example, there's already a 30% duty that we're paying and have been paying for years. Now we pay an additional 30% tariff on that. So some of these tariffs wind up adding up to a good 75, 80, 100% additional cost. So an item that we normally would sell for $10 that the store would sell for $19.99, if we have to sell it for $24.50, that price of that item is now going to go to $49.99. And at some point, you look at an item and think, what is the tipping point? At what point does a customer say, I'm really not willing to pay that price? So particularly you look at maybe just a ceramic coffee cup. It's got a Texas Longhorn on it. And that customer looks at that ceramic coffee cup and says, well, that'd be great. I'm willing to pay $10 for that. Well, right now, that cup is $15. At some point, that's going to be a $25 coffee cup. So you got to ask yourself, who wants to pay $25 for a ceramic coffee cup? And so that is going to have a completely counterproductive effect of the tariffs, in that it's going to reduce the amount of product that we're bringing in, reduce the amount of product that we're selling, reduce the taxes that's bringing in, all of that. And so it affects my workers, because I understand the theory behind tariffs is to drive manufacturing back to America so that we can have jobs for Americans. And, I have 2 points to make about that. First off, what about the American workers that are at my place? I have 70 people right now that rely on this product for their jobs. The manufacturing process is actually probably one of the smallest parts of our business. I mean, American workers, we design it, we prototype it, we send it overseas, we see a sample, we place orders, we create purchase orders. When it comes in on American trucks, trains, dock workers handle it. It comes to our facility, we unload it, we stock it, we process it, we print it, we pack it, we ship it, we sell it, we collect for it. All of that is affected. All of those are American workers and American jobs that are currently in effect, because we can buy this product from overseas and sell it at a price that is available. So when we look at purchasing this product, how it's really affected us in the past 6 months is, most of our customers have to make their purchasing decisions as far as 6 months to a year in advance. So we have a particular distributor that sells to Kroger stores, and they put in a display of college merchandise in all their stores, and they place their orders in August or September of 2024 for what they have already committed to sell Kroger, and already committed at that price based on the prices that we quoted them. Then comes around, March rolls around, and we see tariffs get hit. So we contact that customer and say, hey, here's what's happening. We can eat some of this tariff. Can you eat some of this tariff? What can we do to try to maintain the same price that you sold it to Kroger? Because Kroger's saying, look, we can't do it. We've got flyers going out. We already have things rolling. And we work something out. Then 2 weeks later, tariffs go up again. So the uncertainty that everybody else has been talking about has a dramatic effect. Now it becomes, okay, Kroger's going to cancel these orders. Okay, well, product is made. It's already coming in. So these things happen far out. And so when they make these decisions quickly and implement them quickly the way they've implemented them, it has a dramatic effect. So in many cases, I had a container of toy trucks that would be coming in. My cost on that container would have been about $50,000. During that time period, my cost went from $50,000 worth of toys to $135,000 worth of toys. So that's coming in. We say, oh, stop. We can't do that. You're going to have to hold it there at the port. We cannot bring it in during this tariff time. So depending upon what happens and when we can get that ready to ship is going to depend on whether or not there are toys in the stores in December for Christmas. So Americans are not going to be very happy when they go. Shortages are affected by tariffs. And as we know, the basics of economics is supply and demand. So when there is a small supply and a big demand, the prices are going to go up. So tariffs are going to affect the prices of our product, particularly as we get a few more months into this, running into October, November, December. Primary buying times for our product. Our product is driven by football. College football drives sales. And so this uncertainty has had a dramatic effect on us. And, we just have to know to be able to share that not only with our customers, but also our employees. There's a certain amount of uncertainty there in trying to keep employees and know what they're doing. Second point I'll make, and then I'll finish, is, again, I understand the theory behind we need to bring manufacturing jobs back to America. Unemployment in Arkansas is right now under 4%. pretty much every economist in the world agrees that under 5% unemployment is full employment, which means everybody that wants a job has one. If you ask every one of these business owners, what is the hardest thing that you have going in your business? It is finding and hiring people, just having them. You think Walmart and Kroger want to have machines at the checkout counters? It's not that they don't want to hire people, it's that they don't have people to hire. So I'm going to say it's not popular, but we don't need jobs in America. We need workers. We got jobs. I could hire 6 tomorrow. So that's going to also play into this and have a dramatic effect. These tariffs thing, the uncertainty is really difficult. Now I'm going to introduce Robert Hemaseth. Robert's an Iowa farmer. He's also the board president of Farmers for Free Trade. So Robert, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Excuse me. I appreciate your introduction. As you said, I'm a farmer from Northeast Iowa. I raise corn and hogs with my brother. And from our farm standpoint, the tariffs create a great amount of uncertainty in the ability to export our products. We raise corn. Ethanol is made from corn that gets exported. Corn gets exported. There's all kinds of things that get exported that we make. Pork gets exported. It's a huge part of the market for the things we grow. And usually when tariffs like these happen, agriculture is one of the first ones that gets hit because we're a big export market and it's easy for other countries to put tariffs on our products. And that has happened throughout this whole process. It's created a tremendous amount of uncertainty because we watch our market share around the world dissipate or decline. And we don't know if this lasts for an extended period of time. Will we get those markets back? Because those customers will look elsewhere for those products and they'll find them elsewhere. And we'll be sitting on the sidelines. And then once you lose that market, it's awful difficult to get it back. So there's a huge amount of urgency that needs to happen in this whole process, because the longer this goes on, the harder it's going to be to get those markets back. I get to a certain point the concern about unfair trade practices with other countries. That's a reality, but this broad tariff strategy is just creating a real circus and a lot of uncertainty, as everybody said. And from my standpoint as a farmer, we're looking at corn and soybean prices that are at lows. The market hit a low for the year just this last week. We're looking at negative margins on those crops. And with the uncertainty of not having those trade markets, or if those trade markets are going to be available, just puts a bigger cloud on the economy. And then that has a ripple effect to whether we don't buy equipment. We're looking at local economies struggle. Farmers don't have money. Local towns don't. The businesses there, we can't support them as we have in the past. So there's so much. There's, just as everybody's talked, all the things that compound when you have these issues. And so for us, there's a lot of rural Americans supported President Trump, but I'm starting to see some concern in the fact that, okay, we can stand this pain for a little while, but what's the end game here? And when do we see some results? There's a lot of talk about trade deals getting done and stuff like that, but there's very few details that go with that. And what is that? What are we going to sell those countries, and what are we going to import from them? And it's just this shotgun approach that's kind of just, I hate to keep saying it, but just causes this tremendous amount of uncertainty that we don't know where our markets are going to be. And we need to be, I think it's been probably 12, 13 years since we signed a free trade agreement with other countries. In the ag world, we have competitors from South America, Central America, all over the world signing deals with signing free trade agreements, and they're selling their goods, and we sit here as U.S. farmers at a disadvantage because we're not on a level playing field with those other countries. If we were on a level playing field with them, we could compete all day, every day, but we're not. So we're losing out on both ends of this. So we need to change. We need to get results quickly. I guess I'll put it that way. And we need the certainty of the marketplace. And we want, as farmers, as everybody has mentioned here, to make our money from the marketplace. Give us the opportunities to sell our products wherever they may be wanted, and we will do it. So with that, I know we've gone a little bit long on time. I will turn it back over to Craig Belden, and we can get into some questions and answers. So thank you.
Thanks so much for everyone's thoughts. Really appreciate your impactful words and how these tariffs are impacting yourselves, your businesses, and your communities, and how these moving tariff deadlines are creating even more uncertainty going forward. So with that, we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions. If you all want to raise your hand, I can unmute you, you can ask you, but I'm going to start it off with a question from Hector Arzade from KCUR 89.3 and Harvest Public Media, who did it via chat. Please feel free to do it via chat. Just put your name and outlet in. His two questions for him. First, for Nick Colombo, what states do you source grain and barrels from? What economic concerns do you have for Missouri and the greater Midwest region?
All our barrels come from Missouri. Southern and northern Missouri, we buy from a couple different cooperages. Our grain all comes from the United States, from the Midwest. We've bought corn from Indiana, Kansas, and Missouri. We've bought rye from Minnesota, North Dakota, and Pennsylvania before. Our barley some of it comes from Canada. But yeah, we try to source it as locally as possible. So yeah, as far as, like the effect the tariffs are having, it's like the opposite of what everyone wants. It's like, I manufacture, I pay the tariff, I have to raise prices, I make less stuff, I buy less stuff. It's going to have like the exact opposite effect. Like, no one is going to build a multi-million-dollar factory under these conditions. No one's going to take that risk. It's irresponsible to your investors. So yeah, I don't know. It's definitely not good. And everybody keeps saying it, like, it's not just the tariffs, it's the uncertainty about the tariffs. That's almost worse. Because even if you could, there's no guarantee there's going to be tariffs 3 years from now when my expansion's built. So yeah, I don't know. So construction companies are going to take a hit. There's everything that manufacturing touches would be getting money right now from other countries, and it's not, because of retaliation. So yeah, I don't know.
Thank you, Nick. Then the second question from Hector was for David. By some accounts, Kansas City has been up and coming these past few years. Are you afraid that these tariffs will have a chilling effect on the region's economic growth? Thanks.
That is a great question. I still think Kansas City is a great market to be in, not just because of the economics, but because of the community itself. I can already tell you that consumer trends are changing. We're on the front line. I know there's a couple other retailers out here too. They're probably seeing the same thing we are. Our transactions are down. We unlike some of the other folks on this call, we have had to raise our prices with some of the cost increases that have come across for our aluminum and other products. I really hope it doesn't. We've got the World Cup coming next year. I know that the mayor is trying to incentivize businesses to fill up Main Street. So I hope it doesn't, but I think the reality is it could chill the growth in the Kansas City market area. I know that, like I said, some of the developers that wanted us to be a tenant in their location. I know us and a couple of the other tenants they were looking for have paused their growth strategies as well. So there's a distinct possibility that it will.
Thank you, David. And thank you, Hector, for those questions. Next, from Sunday Rose from the Columbus Ledger-Inquirer in Georgia. Question is for Ms. Hawkins, but anyone else that's got thoughts on it. Have you noticed any delays or cost increases in your supply chain through Georgia-based logistics partners or warehouses? What about Georgia ports? Thank you, Cindy.
Hi, I actually don't import through Georgia. I usually bring my goods in through LA, and then it just makes more sense for my manufacturer out of China to bring it directly to LA. I haven't seen personally, I haven't seen increases in warehousing in Georgia because I do my own warehousing, but I have heard that a lot of the warehouses have been increasing the prices of to store products. There are some that are doing there are some that are offering some unique warehousing opportunities where they would hold the product in order. So there's a lot of different things going on right now. I don't think that because of the uncertainty, there isn't anything that's sticking, but a lot of people are trying different things to be able to help businesses that have to bring in goods that can't necessarily afford to pay the tariff when it gets here. So a lot of them are receiving the product. There are companies that are receiving the product for the business and holding that product until the business can pay the tariff. So those are some of the changes that I've seen, but personally, I haven't had to deal with any of those changes just yet. We did hold our product, the line that would have been directly impacted by the highest tariff at 145%, we had to put that order on hold because we couldn't afford to pay it. So that would have been the biggest impact that we would have seen.
Thank you, Angela. Any other input from anyone else on that question? All right, I'll move on. Next question is from Steve Carmody. Did any of you vote for President Trump? Those who did, are you having regrets? From Michigan Public Radio.
Well, I voted for President Trump, and in spite of the fact that this has had a dramatic impact on my business, I would vote for him again. The tariffs are one issue among many issues that face our nation. And so I don't think President Trump or any politician is just a one-issue man.
Yeah, this is Bob, and as Steve said, I voted for Trump as well, and as much as this is not necessarily the way I want to go, I'm not a one-issue voter. There was a lot of issues that were involved in my decision to vote for President Trump. I just encourage him to move this along as quickly as possible, and to negotiate these deals as quickly as possible, and know what you want in the end, because to me, there looks like there might be we seem to move the goalpost, and we need to know what we want from these countries so that we can negotiate and get these tariffs behind us.
All right, thanks all. Any other questions? One last call, raise your hand, put it in the chat. If not, feel free to reach out to me. Y'all have my email or the press account email. And if you're looking to talk with any of these folks individually, or if you just want to have other questions, happy to talk more. Yeah, but thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for our speakers for sharing your experiences. And everyone have a great day.
Thank you.